Hello, class. Today we're going to take notes on Being Brought and Sympathy. These are the next two texts in our book that we'll be reading from, and we're just going to take some notes on the terms we'll be studying with this text. So, analyzing speaker. We've talked a lot about analyzing just speaker in general and point of view, but now we're going to look at speaker in terms of poems, right? Because both of these are poems. A poem's speaker, like the narrator of a story, is the voice that talks to the reader. Sometimes the speaker can be identified with the poet, but at other times, even if the poem relies on a first-person perspective or first-person point of view, like I, me, etc., the speaker might be a persona. Okay? So a persona is a fictional character adopted by the poet. Kind of like a pseudonym. A little bit different, but it allows the poet to express their ideas without being the person speaking. Now, we're also going to look at analyzing theme. You should know that the theme is the work's message about life or human nature. This message may be stated directly, but readers must often infer it. It means it's not explicit, it's implicit. Infer means to make a logical guess. We talked about making inferences last term, so you should be familiar with this process, but essentially you use context clues to infer meaning. To infer a poem's theme, note details about its speaker, its key ideas, the feelings it expresses, and the poet's use of imagery, language, and voice. So essentially, you're analyzing all the components of the poem and inferring overall meaning based on those components. Now, what are the genre elements of poetry? It develops a theme or multiple themes in the work. It's more condensed and suggestive than prose, and uses a variety of sound devices to create voice, emphasis, and convey meaning. Now, poems are a little bit tricky because they're far less literal than the normal texts that we read, like the short stories, right? Because there's a lot of figurative language in them, you have to do a lot of making inferences. There's no right answers with poems also most of the time. Like, you literally have to read something and then make your best inference based on that material, which is fine as long as you're providing evidence for whatever claims you're making about the poem. Now, as we read these two poems, I want you to copy this chart down in your notes because you will be completing this chart for these two poems. You're going to keep track of important details and suggested themes from On Being Brought from Africa to America and Sympathy. So take a second, copy this chart down in your notebook because you will be completing it. We're also going to look at analyzing sound devices and voice. Poets use a number of different sound devices, such as rhyme, rhythm, alliteration, repetition, and meter, to emphasize ideas in a musical quality, create a mood, and reinforce meaning in their poems. These devices also contribute to the voice of a poem, or the unique style of the author or speaker. Think about a song that you like, regardless of what it is, right? But you probably like, or an artist, I should say, you like that artist because the way they deliver, their songs, the way they say their words, their voice, etc., right? Poets have unique voice just like musicians do. And it's up to us to identify what that voice is. One of the literary devices that is very common within poetry is rhyming. So rhyme is the occurrence of similar or identical sounds at the end of two or more rhyme words. So internal rhyme is rhyme that occurs within a single line of poetry, such as sweet, heat, and complete. Internal rhyme happens within the line, as opposed to end rhyme, which appears at the end of a set of lines. So this is where the last word of the line is going to rhyme with the last word of the next line. We also have rhythm. Sorry, I don't know what happened to the picture here. Rhythm refers to the beat of a poem and is created by the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. Now, I'm not going to ask you to identify meter, which is the repetition of a regular rhythmic unit in a line, but we did this before, I will point it out to you, but think about like anytime you listen to rap, right? And any music really, it has a beat and the words match the beat. The same thing exists with poetry, but instead of having music to help you identify that beat, it's just by the way we naturally say our words. So we'll look at a combination of stressed and unstressed syllables. For example, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? You naturally stress parts of that. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So that is what creates the rhythm within a poem, are those natural combinations of stressed syllables and unstressed syllables. Another common literary device found in poetry is repetition. It's a poetic device in which a sound, word, or phrase, or lines, complete total lines, are repeated to emphasize the importance of an idea, as well as to create an appealing rhythm. Anytime you have words or phrases or entire lines that are being repeated, you should focus on that because that's a pretty big indicator that it's of importance, or that the poet wanted you to pay attention to that particular part of the text. We're also going to take a look at alliteration, which is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words, placing emphasis on those words, their sounds, and their meanings. There's a common tongue twister, she sells seashells by the seashore. So in this, the alliteration is the repetition of the sh sound, the sh, as well as the s sound. All right, that wraps up the notes for today. Please make sure that you took thorough notes. These are all literary devices and skills that we'll be using for the next two texts. So I will see you guys in class in just a short time.